Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What's been going on? I haven't seen you visually in a while. We've been hearing each other, but not seeing each other. I have a feeling that this relationship is not going where I had hoped it would.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we've been doing podcasts, I suppose, as we announced the last time, and you've actually managed to post a few of them, so pretty good reaction from those.
Yeah. What's the? I know you'll post a link in the show notes, but what's the address?
Uh, Lollygagging are us. No, what's?
It's lollygagging-podcast.com.
Oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah. So many thanks to our good friend Eugenio for helping us produce it and compile it and post it and host it with the most it and yeah. So thank you Zen.
Yeah, he's done a really good job there, so everybody can sort of find it, which is useful. And he did all of the Apple-y stuff as well, so because that's not my forte, that's for sure.
Yeah. So look for us. I guess we're on iTunes now.
iTunes, yeah, and there's
On
an RSS feed and all sorts of good stuff. So
Yeah. So hunt us down and listen.
yeah, don't kill us, just listen.
Mm.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
wait. Okay. So I think if you're on the left of the screen. So hey, Rick, look to your left, Rick.
Military left?
Hi. How are you? Hi. How are you?
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
yeah, we'll have to try that out later.
Yeah, we're trying this new Skype.
It's maybe over there.
What's that? What?
Yeah, so we are trying. We previously always used Google Hangouts for our video things, and then re-edit it. This time we're going to try Skype because it does a split screen sort of deal, so you can see both of us at the same time. Although I might blank out Dave. But anyway.
No, you would never do that to me.
Yeah. Well, green screen, although I think it's red.
Oh, red screen. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Hi, everyone. Hi. Okay.
So anyway, we don't really have a purpose or a topic for this particular thing. We thought we'd just chat with each other and with everybody. Not really. You just sort of have to listen.
Yeah. Well, no, they can hear us. They can see us. And we're facing the camera, so it looks like we're talking to our listeners/viewers. So, hi, listener/viewer. How are you?
Yeah, and what's that behind you, listener/viewer? No, not you, Dave.
Oh, okay.
That viewer guy on the right there.
Oh, the one not wearing a shirt. That's kind of disturbing.
And anything else?
Well, I can't pan down from here, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I'll video edit that out. Well, actually, you can't see it. Anyway, it's all good.
Yeah. So anyway, Rick, you've been getting some feedback from the podcast. You've been getting some other questions, and we're going to be putting up new episodes soon and answering more questions. So, but it sounds like we've been getting a little feedback. Is there any other comments? Anything outside of regular questions that we should answer with our limited knowledge?
Everybody loves me, but you not so much.
Yeah, we kind of predicted that was sort of in our numbers prediction.
Yeah. Google Analytics or whatever. Anyway, the reaction's been pretty good. We've got a few topics. I know on the podcast we try to be a bit more serious and actually stick on topic where possible. But for the videos we tend not to. Although one of the comments was that somebody was going to ask a question, which oddly enough we had covered in one of our previous videos. So they do complement each other, kind of, sort of. So the podcast has gone well. We're trying to be a bit more professional in the podcast.
Well, we try to stay on track. Having the podcast kind of limits us to shorter times. Videos, we can just ramble on. And who's Jack Wills?
It's my mate.
Oh, okay. Because do you know that there's typing on the bottom of the mug?
Is there really?
Yeah, look at that. I know you're sending secret messages to the audience, like, help, please help me, I'm trapped.
I'm trapped.
Dave has me in handcuffs. Hi.
Other mugs are available.
I will say I'm not used to this whole split screen thing, because even though I can't see it, I know that I'm on screen all the time, as opposed to the earlier version where I only pop up on the screen when I make a noise. So if I sit silently, I can kind of do things and make faces, but now I have to look pretty all the time. So
I know it's difficult.
Life is a cruel mistress.
So anyway, so what I was going to say was one of the things we had talked about, and feel free to leave comments, was because this is a video portion of our channel, brand, whatever you want to call it, or madness. Madness is probably a better word.
Madness, sheer madness.
Our inane ramblings. But anyway, we had discussed about doing things that you could do visually, like actually showing people some grammar books that we own, and do some unboxing and things like that. So basically, something that you can see, that you need to look at as well as listen to, which on the podcast, obviously, we talk about a lot of stuff, but we can't actually show you anything. So hopefully we can reinforce some of our messages about, listening comprehension or book reading or material recommendations and that sort of stuff on the video channel, where you can actually see the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah.
Assuming you've actually got it.
Yeah, and we can also I think we can do screenshots. We're kind of making this up as we go, so we can do screenshots and kind of insert them into the video, can we not?
Yep, that's true. That's true. And so that's so in addition to actually showing you us, touching and moving the books around and doing stuff, we can actually insert videos, clips, photographs, all that sort of visual elements that you won't get in the podcast, obviously. So if anybody has any comments, feel free to put the comments in the comments section below about what you might want to see, visually on the YouTube channel, as opposed to what we talk about on the podcast.
Well said. Well said. Is there anything you'd like to show us, or anything you'd like to tell us about your current language? What is it? Language attaining goals?
Stuff.
Yeah.
So stop trying to use big words today.
Yeah.
Well, at the moment, I'm just trying to make sure that I can speak English. That's working out okay. Maybe not so great.
And I believe someday you will be good at it. I truly believe that. Keep plugging along, and
yeah. One day I'll be good at it. I'm just sort of trudging along, same as usual. I've done. In fact, I just finished a Mandarin Chinese class with my tutor who lives in Shenzhen, who's actually on holiday this week, and so she showed me a little video, Skype around of her grandma's house where she was staying, which is quite interesting, and because she's out in the province where she was born, because apparently they have a 7-day holiday in China this week.
Wow.
Everybody's got 7 days off. It's some sort of like National Labor Day thing or something.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, very nice. And if you have to work, you're getting paid triple time. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I've been to Shenzhen for a day, and I never knew about this. And had I known, I probably would have stayed longer and gotten a job.
Yeah, just to work overtime for 1 week.
How about it?
But yeah, so that was interesting. Very interesting conversation. A lot of cultural stuff I didn't realize or know before. So that's quite cool. And so a bit more Chinese. I've done some Setswana, though I got a bit burned out because we did that 6-week challenge. So I got a bit burned out on it because I was doing it an hour or two every day. I think my final score was about 21 hours or so over the 6 weeks. So I got a bit burned out on that, so I haven't really done much there. Still doing loads and loads of language exchanges in Italian and French, talking to lots and lots of people. And I wrote this little rant about grammar books. So actually a good topic might be a brief discussion on grammar books, Dave.
Okay.
Do you use them?
Yes, generally I do. Depending on the language and depending on what other resources are available, I generally am kind of a sucker for grammar books. I'm a grammar ophile, I guess they call it in this room. Wait, what? What? Edit. No,
I thought you were a different kind of ophile.
Yeah, no, you're. I hate you so much. It's like great, and the government is monitoring my. Move in.
Kenny boys.
Anyway,
shoot him.
Wow.
So if you're good at grammar, maybe you can explain this one to me.
Yes.
Okay. Where is it? Okay. So this was one of the rules I came across. The past two transferinitives are followed by alternatives, which are mostly contrastatives.
Contrastatives?
Yeah, that might be it.
Okay.
I don't know. The spell checker can't figure that out either.
Yeah. Can you copy it and paste it into the little chat box, and I'll take a look.
How am I going to show people?
Yeah,
I'll paste it onto the screen for our viewers later.
Yeah. For the lucky few.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
It's with the new thingy. I can't actually figure out how to actually. Oh, there is that it?
Damn you, technology!
No, that's not it. There used to be a button where you could just click on it and it would open up, but now it's that's not it.
Well, what grammar book or
I don't know. It's some weird freakishly thing grammar stuff.
Yeah, because there are grammar books that
are... I found the chat button. Hang on, here we go.
Okay. Hey, everyone, it's our first time doing this, so bear with us. Transferentives are... Okay, the past two transferentives are followed by... Wait, it went away. That was neat that it actually came up on the screen. There we go. Are followed by alternatives, which are mostly contrastives. Okay. I don't know what a transferentive is.
Yeah, nobody does. This is my point. Grammar books are rubbish because you have to learn a whole different language called grammar to figure it out. And it's like, and then they wonder why people want to kill themselves when they read these flipping books. Anyway, so my rant was something along those lines, which I'll show you.
And that's justified. There are some grammar books that are very complex, very linguistic based, and have words like that you don't come across. Other grammar books may throw in a few terms, but very sparsely. Okay. If like is in the negative, a gerund refers to an action that we do but don't enjoy doing. Oh, it went away. Hello. Hold on a second. Let me go back to the chat. Okay. If like is in the negative, a gerund refers to an action that we do but don't enjoy doing, while a to infinitive means that we don't do something because we don't think it right to do. Oh, okay. What language is this for?
I don't even know what language it's in. I think that one's English.
Wait, so this, I think this is English. It sounds kind of like English. And what language is it talking? Is it talking about English grammar?
It's talking about English grammar.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So if like the word like is in the negative, like don't like, a gerund refers to an action that we do but don't enjoy doing. A gerund is a verb ending with the form ending in ing. So running, sleeping, eating, those are all gerunds of run, sleep, and eat. So if like is in the negative, so don't like, if you don't like, then the gerund, so you don't like sleeping, refers to an action that you do but you don't enjoy doing. While a to infinitive, meaning to sleep, to eat, to taunt your neighbors, to go for a hike, things like that. If you use the to infinitive, that means that you don't do something because we don't think it right to do. So what this is saying is, if you're saying don't like I don't like eating, that means you do it but you don't enjoy it. If you don't like to eat, that means that you don't do it because you don't think it right to do. I don't like to eat because I think it's wrong. I don't like eating, but I do it anyway. So that's kind of what it means, basically. I don't really fully get that.
See, Yeah, you don't get it. And you're a native English speaker. I can't even read it. I'm a native English speaker. I fail to see how grammar books help anyone other than publishers selling books.
Well, actually, it's really interesting because this is a very sort of a complicated and convoluted way of viewing this. But this is, and of course, depending on when this is written, um, this is.
I just typed it now.
Yeah, well, no, I hate you. This is something that we do naturally. This rule is based on what we do, not what we ought to do. And so we as human beings are amazing creatures because we learn languages and we create these rules instinctively and subconsciously. So we don't sit down and say, okay, look, if like is in the negative, then we do this and this and this. It just comes to us. It forms over time. And linguists and grammarians, they have to kind of look at our language and look at patterns and say, oh, this is the rule based on past speaking.
Yeah, I get all that. So basically, that is basically a cottage industry job creation thing for linguistic grammarian people, right? Okay, I get that. I suppose they have to eat as well.
Yeah.
But how does that actually help somebody who's attempting to learn English? If like is in the negative, a gerund refers to the action, blah, 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 blah. So if you're reading that, like, you just want to pluck your eyes out so you never have to see it again. How does this help somebody learn another language? I mean, I hate grammar books. I hate studying grammar. You've probably worked out that I particularly detest reading grammar books. But for the sake of our viewers, there must be people who find this useful. And I assume as a budding linguist that you have an opinion on this and that you feel it might be useful for somebody.
Well, let me tell you a story about a guy I once knew. He lived somewhere where they had a school that taught English to folks from other countries. And he said, "Hey, I'm a native English speaker. I'm going to apply for a job." And he went in, and the person he interviewed with said, "Okay, here are some example sentences. Explain the difference." And I think one was, "I remembered locking the door, and I remembered to lock the door." And I thought, well, they're about the same. And he said, no, actually, I remembered locking the door means you did it, and then you remembered later on that you did it. Whereas I remembered to lock the door means that it came to your mind first, and then you went and locked the door. So there are subtleties that maybe these are obvious to some of our listeners and viewers. It's obviously hurting your brain, but there are subtleties that, again, because I'm a native speaker, I don't know the rules, and so I don't always know the subtleties of the language. Another one was I dated a woman who was from Poland, and she was taking an English class, and her English was actually quite impeccable. And she came to me and said, "What's the difference between try eating and try to eat?" Try eating is the gerund, and try to eat is the infinitive form. What would be the difference to you? What is the meaning within for each sentence?
Sorry, what were my options? Try eating and...
Try eating and try to eat.
There's really effectively no difference that I can think of.
That's what I thought, and maybe because of my English being the way it is, it has evolved to a place where I don't see the difference. But to others, try eating would be, say, try eating and see what happens, like see what reaction you get or see what follows, versus try to eat, meaning see if you can do it. And at least historically, those differences have been in play for the gerund and the infinitive form. And I thought, okay, well, that kind of makes sense, but I may not necessarily use those in that exact way. So there are certain rules that either are lost or they change over time, or they change by region or differ by region. So there are a lot of rules like this that do kind of ultimately make sense, but you wouldn't necessarily need to know them when you're just starting out. So I think grammar books that have explanations like this are helpful for much deeper meaning, but when you're trying to get words down and basic meanings down and just sentence formation, going to a grammar book like this and plucking this huge sentence that you just slapped on the screen is counterproductive, I think. So,
Well, I'll slap another one on the screen here in a minute.
oh
Other people.
boy.
But anyway, this one of the things I was going to say to people. I've been doing a lot of language exchanges, and one piece of advice that I can definitely give you is do not ask a native speaker for grammar advice because they
Oh,
don't know. It's like when they asked me, well, why do like the question you just asked me, and I went, well, all right, it sounds the same to me.
yeah.
It because they don't know. They know that something either is right or it is not right because it sounds right or wrong to them. But they can't explain to you the rule. Um, it's only like even myself. I was in my sort of late 20s before somebody showed me the rule of when to use a and when to use an in writing. Um, but those sorts of rules, like you just when you just say them and it sounds right or not, as the case may be. Um, but anyway, don't bother asking grammars unless from natives unless they're actually a grammar teacher. Um, I wouldn't bother. Anyway, here's another one. This one's for French though.
Okay. Well, why don't you read this one out loud?
The rule requires agreement between the past participle and the complement of the direct object, abbreviated COD, in verbs conjugated with avoir, to have, but only if the COD precedes the participle. How do you say that word?
Participle.
Participle.
So the rule requires agreement between the past participle and the complement of the direct object, abbreviated as COD, in verbs conjugated with avoir, to have, but only if the COD precedes the participle. So the participle would be like eat, like I have eaten.
That's
That
past participle, so it's
past
going to be ate.
yeah, so ate. No, that's actually past tense, I believe.
But this is avoir. Don't forget, this is to have. Avoir.
Right. So it kind of translates
Have.
roughly. I have eaten, or I have
I had a
slept.
burger or whatever.
What I have had, things like that. So the agreement and the complement of the direct object, which I believe is just like him, like I have seen him. Doesn't that just mean that the as part of the complement? I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to.
Exactly. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Je
So some,
chantais la chanson, la
well,
chanson qui j'ai chanté.
okay.
So you can use I have sung the song or the
Mhm.
song I have sung.
Okay.
It's like that.
Okay.
And it's whether you use la or que. Anyway,
Oh. Okay.
but like when you read it, it makes no flipping sense to me.
Language.
But
Language.
But when somebody actually says to me, yeah, we don't say it like this, we say it like that. This is why I'm saying when you're doing language exchanges, there's no point asking for grammar because they don't know it typically. They're just going to say to you, don't say it like that, say it like this. Or, no, that's when you want to say past tense, you need to use this if you want to say present tense or whatever. They're not typically native speakers don't know grammar, especially English native speakers.
That is true. That is true. Actually, I'm taking a class on the on structures of English, and we talk about that, and we talk about how people they sometimes want to sound more formal, so they will hypercorrect, and so they will say, oh, this person gave it to Rick and I. And it's like, well, no, they gave it to Rick and me. But you think I sounds more formal, more proper, and so you say I, or
Hmm.
he is standing next to I, and just it's horrible. But that people think this is how it should sound, but they don't know the rule. They don't know the ways to detail this. And being native speakers, we can spit out so much, and we have all this internal grammar inside of us that we just know by heart without being able to explain. And it's horrible because there's so much that I know how to say but can't tell you why in English. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get better at that. And with other languages, it's the reverse. You kind of learn, like for me, grammar books, ones that are not this complicated, they're like cookbooks. It's like you have all these words, all these lovely ingredients, and you can kind of listen to someone and, listen to them speak, or, watch movies and DVDs, and, go to language exchanges, and you can hear all these things. And people will kind of tell you, either implicitly or explicitly, how to put these words together into a nice little meal of a sentence. And you do that. And other times you have a grammar cookbook that tells you, take, 1/4 cup of the nominative case, and take 2 cups of the gerund or the to infinitive.
But hang on a minute. I like your analogy for a recipe book, but that's great. But when they say use, the zest of 1 lemon, I know what a lemon is, but I have no idea what a transferitative and 2 past transferitatives. Yeah, I haven't a bloody clue.
No, actually, and I don't either, and that's really.
So this is what I'm saying. To learn a language through grammar, you first have to learn the language of grammar, which for me is really frustrating and annoying. When in fact, I'm probably going to learn it anyway, because the same way my mother used to say, "Don't say that, say this," or my language exchange partners do the same thing. "Oh, we don't say it like that, we say this." So why would I not want to pick up grammar the lazy way and just have people correct me until it aligns itself in my head?
You totally can, and it's the lazy way, and it's the natural way. But the thing is, if you pick up a little bit of grammar in terms that you understand, then you can use that as a shortcut to kind of propel your learning. Because if you know the rule, and sometimes there are rules that change based on certain words, certain sounds, and all that. And if you just have one example, if someone says, "Oh, put this at the end of this word," you'll say, "Okay, great," and you'll think, "Oh, I'll do that with every word." And children of all languages do this. A popular example is, say, like a child learning past tense of verbs. It's like, I walked, I shouted, I begged, I goed, I sleeped. And so they're taking this rule and they're applying it to everything. But if you know, the exceptions, if you know the rules based on sound, like how do you make plurals in English, Rick?
You use an S.
Do you?
I do.
Okay, so most words you would
I
put
does.
So if 1 plant, 2 plants, and that works out. 1 bed, 2 beds. Oh wait, but that's a Z sound. Beds. Even though you write an S, but it's actually a Z sound. And then for 1 box, 2 boxes, well, you're adding is on there. So even though it's all S or maybe ES, there are certain sound changes based on what the last sound of the word is. Now, you may not ever know that explicitly. You may not ever say, "This is why we do it." But if I give you a word, here's a popular word in linguistics: a wug. 1 wug, 2
Wugs.
wugs. Exactly. There's a Z sound, a buzzing Z sound, because the G is we say it's voiced, so it gets a voiced plural sound. So these are all like just little things that we learn inherently growing up, and you may go throughout your entire life without anyone ever telling you that, but you know these rules in your brain. There's a little segment that says, "Oh, here are the rules for making plural sounds when you're speaking them." Written is a little different, but speaking is really where the meat's at. So you know how to do these things inherently. And so you're never going to know how to explain them unless you really think about them, or if you take an English class, or if you become an English teacher and learn all these things. So I would say, if you can, with your language exchanges, try and get someone who is a French teacher, who actually can say the whys, not just say, "Oh, because it sounds good, because it sounds right." Find out why.
Yeah.
Yeah. And stay away from these weird books. I don't know what grammar books and grammar sites you're looking at, but they sound too convoluted, and they sound maybe even dated.
No, there's but this is the problem. I mean, there are some grammar books that are really quite good. I mean, for example, just today I was using, there's an online grammar wiki for Chinese, and for example, in Chinese, typically you negate with the word bo. So sure is am, for example. So bo sure is isn't, not is, basically. But have is an exception, which is yo. They use may, so mayo is don't have. But you don't use bo yo. In fact, I can't even say it. But anyway, that's one of the, like you're saying, that it's a grammar rule which is pretty easily explainable, even for a non-native. But obviously, a native knows it. So when typically when you start out and you use bo with everything, when you get to have, they will correct you. Oh, hang on, you don't use that one in this, So I understand that grammar rules are a shortcut and they will help you and they will explain things. But the language of a grammar book is really dry and boring and not conducive to, well, it's conducive to sleeping, actually.
So
Well, I thought because I do hate them, I thought maybe you might have a different perspective on le grammaire.
Well, I think I don't know. I mean, I studying German really opened or exposed me to case endings, and nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. And I thought, what are all these cases? What are all these endings? And English only has a few examples of cases, mainly pronouns. Like you would say, I saw an ex-convict running through the street. You wouldn't say, me saw an ex-convict running through the street. Why? Well, because you use I as the subject. But if someone said, oh, Rick hates I, well, then that sounds totally wrong. It would be Rick hates me. And so we have these different versions of me, I, me, and so on. And they have lingered in the language from early on. But we don't get much of that. If I say Rick saw Dave, Dave saw Rick, the only way we know who saw who is because of word order. Because all of our case markings have ended. They're gone. We've gotten rid of it. German, it's a totally different thing. If you want to say the book, it's one way in the subject, it's another way in the dative. The man is different in dative, accusative, and so on. So all this is just a very long and convoluted way of saying that sometimes knowing a little bit of this and knowing how it works and how it falls into your everyday language does help and give you a shortcut, but you've got to find a book that is not like what you're showing. Like I'm trying to think. I'm in my library now. Let me see what I can find here.
Ooh, a bit of visual effects. Go, Dave, go.
Okay. No. So let's see. So there's this German. Here we go. My Spanish grammar. Oh, here we go. Here are. Let me just pull a couple books here real quickly. So that I have found useful over the course of my life. So these books, from where are they from? They are from Cambridge. And I haven't used this in a while, but I keep this around because using Spanish, and I think I've had using German, shows you different types of register, when to use different words, talk about cognates, correctness. So it's kind of useful for usage. Maybe not so much grammar. Castle's Contemporary Spanish. This one has been a good one. Talks about grammar usage, but it's really kind of in just normal terms. So let's see. Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, that explanation makes sense. So that's actually a good one. Modern Spanish grammar. I think this is also kind of pretty good. Talks about the differences between the star. So there's that. And it basically just it gives it in much better terms than your explanations. And then my favorite for German is Hammer's German grammar and usage. And books like these I like because they are generally kind of easier to read than these complex explanations. So they don't.
Okay, so let's boil this down, folks. Okay. So you're going to give some advice to the viewers and people like me who hate and despise grammar books.
Okay.
What do we do who don't love grammar books? How do we pick one that's not yank your eyes out dull?
Well, if you're
And actually, you can understand in plain English or whatever your native language is. How do I pick one of those?
well, I would say if you're doing German, I love Hammer's German grammar and usage. There may be a newer edition out. This is the
Yeah,
fourth
yeah, but
edition.
say somebody's learning Tibetan.
Okay.
How do they pick, a grammar book? Well, I'm saying, give me some general advice for picking a grammar book that's going to be useful for me,
Okay.
and like generally, what tips do you give me? How do I actually use this? How do I look at it? How do I know which one of these rules I'm going to need?
That's a good question. If you're not, if you're sort of a grammar phobe, then I think you have to kind of go through the back door. You have to learn phrases, learn words and sentences, and kind of see what the word order is, see why words change. Sometimes it's a mystery. Sometimes a word will have a special ending. Tibetan is a tricky language, just for your sake of example. So, and I wouldn't even know where to start. I would probably start with colloquial Tibetan. I've got let's see what's there.
Here you have something.
Of course, it's me. Let's see. So,
By the
when
way,
I
if you're doing this and you want to just pick a random language and see if Dave has a book, have a go.
spin the wheel, what do you have there? No, don't look at the shelf. No cheating. No cheating. So I would funny story. When I first moved to Virginia, I was looking at possibly working with the Tibetan language, and I didn't know any. So I bought a number of books. I had Lonely Planet Tibetan, and that's okay. I mean, it'll teach you phrases, and it has a little bit of grammar. So it's very painless. So I thought that was kind of a good way to go. So phrase books are great. Eventually, I bought the Asimil Tibetan, was it Depoche Pocket
Mhm.
Tibetan, and it helped out a little bit. But of course, I had to know some French to read that. Another early book I got was Learning Practical Tibetan, and again, it's sentences, little bit of explanation, but nothing painful. And I think there was audio online for that at the time. I'm not sure if it's still available. I got another Tibetan book that has phrases. Speak Tibetan like a Tibetan.
So you're saying that most of the grammar I need is going to be in these introductory course books?
I think so. I think there'll be bits and pieces. This one is mainly just phrases. I don't even think there's any grammar in here, but it helps get things down. It helps get your mouth moving. It helps you learn sounds. Again, if you can hear audio with it, that's great. I've always wanted to get colloquial Tibetan, but just never gotten around to it. And that's the actual series, the colloquial series by Routledge. There is also colloquial Tibetan, a textbook of the Lhasa dialect. And this one is a bit more convoluted, so I haven't actually taken a stab. There's another old book which it's poorly written. It's like typeset, like from the 1950s or something. So I would say if you are grammar phobic, if just all these terms start freaking you out, learn some phrases, learn some word order, and then if you ultimately get a Tibetan grammar book or access to Tibetan grammar information, don't read it front to back. Don't start with the beginning, the first chapter, because it'll be all about maybe nouns or verbs. And it will tell you every single thing you need to know about nouns or verbs in one chunk. And that's probably not what you need to know. So I would say use a textbook like a dictionary. Just go through, find the sections you need to know about. Why are plurals different in this case? We'll go in the index, find plurals, and see what it says about that. You also have to find a book that kind of explains things in basic terms. Like you're using transferentives. I've never even heard of that, and I probably should have. So I would say just chuck that and just get like an off the shelf book at the bookstore on like basic French grammar from a popular publisher.
That one isn't French. I believe that one's actually something to do with Chinese or Korean. But anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. The
Well,
rules.
anyway, it was just to illustrate my point that grammatical terms and terminology is a completely different vocabulary than the one most people use every day. So, hence my point of you have to learn one language before you can, called grammar, before you can learn another. So yeah, no, that seems reasonable to me. If it, I mean, I picked up grammar for French mostly through the course books that I did, because obviously they tell you things like, descriptive adjectives become after the noun. It's car blue, not blue car, that sort of thing. So you do get that in the course book, and you generally you get a sufficient amount of grammar to get you through. But then when you get to a more intermediate level, people are like, oh, you should look, whatever grammar book. I can't remember the one they recommend, but it's like, bigger than War and Peace, and it's full of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like reading The Hobbit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's more like holding your hand on a hot plate while while your fingers melt. Anyway, but yeah, so this is why I was looking for some advice from you, somebody who actually likes grammar and grammatical terms and linguistics and that sort of thing. For people like me and our viewers who may not.
No, I like grammar to a point. Like the things that you're posting are a little bit beyond what really grabs me. Although the one about like in the negative, it's like, okay, it makes sense. I don't like to run, so therefore I don't do it. Whereas I don't like running means I do it anyway, but I don't like it. And so there's a subtle difference. So I get that. That makes sense. And, like the examples I gave earlier are kind of like that, where they're subtle. And if you are not a native English speaker and you say these things, you'll probably still be understood. Maybe there will be some confusion. Maybe someone will say, wait, you said you don't like it, but you did it anyway. And that speaker may not even know why it sounds wrong to them, again, because it's so innate. But I like it. I think when I started studying Hungarian, I opened up Teach Yourself Hungarian, and all the rules were kind of stated very clearly, and they made sense to me. And that was just with some knowledge of German grammar and German grammar terms like cases, like, again, nominative, dative, genitive, and so on. So it made sense to me, but it was worded very clearly. And you could easily take whatever that book said and find a much more scientific and specific way of saying it that made it very convoluted and not for the average Hungarian learner. And it still would have made sense, but only to the linguists and the grammarians who have that sort of vocabulary. So yeah, find something that speaks in everyday terms. Forget this transferentive and this what else was it? Let's see.
Transitives.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Transferentives, alternatives, which are mostly contrastives. You have to know what those individual things are. And sometimes learning the extra vocabulary helps, because then you see it in another sentence and you go, oh, I know what word they're talking about.
Right.
So,
yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to have to leave it there, but we might cover this grammar at some point on a podcast where we can actually get into and actually do a bit of research on some of this.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what grammar books and resources other people use, because I pluck them off the bookshelf based on price. I'll get them from the library. Some things make sense, some things don't. But I'm curious what range of resources people use. So if you have a grammar book you like, put it in the comments, and we'll read it in 2 to 4 weeks.
I'll read the comment, not the grammar book.
You read the comment, I'll read the grammar book.
Okay, that works. That works for me. All right. Well, good talking to you, everybody. Good talking to you, Dave.
Yeah, good to see you, and we'll see you next time. Say hi.
See ya.
See ya.
I don't know what slide you're on. Anyway.
Hello. So say hi to your grammar for me, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Okie dokie.
I heard you've been saying things about me and my friends.
Yeah, I don't know how to stop this recording.
Oh, I disappeared.
I disappeared once.
Okay, now I'm back. I'm still in the corner.
Yeah. You need to be in the corner.
That's right. It's time out for Dave.
Time out for Dave.